All right, well,
Melody, we're here.
here we are.
I know this was like an idea that started like 3 days ago, and
So 3 days. We did hit the ground running, though.
We did.
Definitely, there's been a lot of behind the scenes action, a lot of paperwork.
But I think the reason why we've been able to accelerate so quickly is because I think we have each individually been thinking about this for some time.
I think so, yeah.
So there's a lot of preparation and thinking over years, and we just happen. It's so serendipitous. It's like we happen to just be both in the same place at the same time.
Yes.
What we want to do with Tango.
Yeah, and like once it starts rolling, it's like a little fire. I do feel like it was a little spark, and then it was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we should announce what's happening.
Yeah.
And John behind the camera,
hello,
who you can hear but not see, we're all coming together to form Vienna Tango School, which is really, really, really exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So before we start, to anybody who doesn't know who you are, which I know a lot of DC, New York, actually like worldwide, actually a lot of people already know who you are. But for those who don't know who you are, introduce yourself, give a little bit of your background, and then talk about how tango came into your life.
Yeah. My name is Amanda Garley, but on Facebook, a lot of people, and in the tango world, a lot of people know me as Amanda D. Garley, which is a play on a very famous person in tango who makes probably my favorite genre of music in tango. And yeah, so I got into tango quite early, I think, for smalls.
You were young, right?
Yeah, I started in college, undergrad at the University Club, which actually a lot of people, maybe some people also start with.
At Purdue.
At Purdue University, yeah. It was really serendipitous because it was my freshman year, first summer after my freshman year, and I was doing summer research, and for the first time I actually had extra time in my day because I was studying engineering. So I had signed up actually during the year for the ballroom club because I really wanted to learn partner dancing. So I grew up dancing ballet, and I thought I would become a professional ballet dancer one day, but that didn't pan out. But hey, here we are. And but throughout the year, I never made it to any of the classes. So finally the summer came around. I was like, this is my moment. And at the time, the guy that I was dating, we both decided to go in with it together. But I accidentally showed up to the Tango Club class. And I kid you not, I walked into the room, and the guy who I found out later on was like one of the math professors in the college. He was like, well, this is tango, but do you want to give it a shot? And I was like, sure. And he literally he was my very first dance, and we just started moving. And I was like, whoa, this makes sense.
Yeah,
I didn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, I remember that moment. So I'm Melody, as Donnie sang. And wow, I've been dancing tango for like 11 years. I came to it as a single mom. A guy asked me on a date to a tango workshop. He was not a dancer, and neither of us had ever tried it. So we didn't know that when you go into class after the first, song or even half song, they're like, change partners, and all of the ladies move down or the guys move down. And it was a big workshop. It was like 70 people.
Where?
Things to do DC. And it was in this, I don't know if it's still there because I'm not young enough to know these things anymore, but it was like in a club. It was like in the floor of a club. But it was a ton of couples in one long line because it's like a DC club, so kind of narrow. And I moved down, and I did not make it back to him until the end of the tango section. And of course, it was really awkward and uncomfortable because nobody knows what they're doing. The guys are kind of pushing you around. But I was really lucky. Well, one, I was really excited about it. And I even bought leather-soled shoes for this thing because I was so excited. I had watched Moulin Rouge, and it's still one of my favorite movies. And I have the deluxe DVD set. Okay, I'm dating myself here. But one of the special things is that it has a multi-cam view of the tango, Tango de Roxanne that they have in there. And I probably watched that 100 times. I kid you not. And now I know, okay, well, it's a loose interpretation of tango, but I was obsessed. So I went to this workshop, and it was like tango first, then salsa. And there was like a 5 to 10 minute break where you could get a drink, you could hang out. And my date went to the bathroom. And a guy walked up and he was like, oh, well, I do dance tango. And do you want to practice what you learned? And I was like, yeah, cool. And because he had a little bit of experience, I felt a lead for the first time. And I was like, oh, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like. Okay. And so then that was it. Like I searched it out and fell down the rabbit hole as we do.
Yeah. It's amazing how it all snowballs
Yes.
very quickly.
Yeah.
I think I remember taking a couple of classes, and the next thing I knew, I was going to my first festival, which was a disaster because I started off with just enough skill because I was a dancer that I could get away with things. But then I went to my first festival, and everybody I tried to dance with, they never asked me again, and I couldn't get any more dances. And me and my friend both together, Drew, we were tango babies together at our first festival in Ann Arbor. That's where we kind of used to go a lot. And we came back out of that festival like, holy crap, we have a lot of work to do. And yeah, we started taking it really seriously after that. And I actually would come to DC over the summers for my internship. I had this co-op that was running every year. And that was where I really started to understand and get like really good instruction. Jake was actually one of my first teachers.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Well, and like, I like that you went to a festival, you found it challenging, but instead of saying this sucks and walking away, you're like, okay, no, it's me. I got to learn. And I feel like that's one of those points where actually we lose a lot of people.
Yeah.
They might have a hard night, and we'll definitely have to talk like a whole episode later about like
how to handle rejection
and taking things personally or not. And like, we have to definitely cover that in a later episode, because I think that is one of the things that definitely drives people away or causes some division in the communities. But I do want to hear from our disembodied John back there. John, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background?
Hi, my name is John. I am Melody's husband. I, like Amanda, also started tango in college. This is a little weird that I'm not on camera, I'm just a voice talking. But I also started tango in college at Cornell, and I had never danced before that. And I was in school for engineering. I didn't know I could dance or anything, or like being even adjacent to that world was insane. I had a friend, a guy friend, who started dancing, and he kept trying to get me to go out. And I just, it's like, come on, man, you're insane. You're asking me to go dance tango. And so at one point, it was the middle of winter break. I didn't have an excuse anymore. I figured I'd just go to shut him up. And I kind of went, and I was like, oh, this is very different than what I thought it would be. Is very different than the world I was in at that time. And I realized that it was something I really needed in my life, that it was like a creative outlet that I didn't have. And just like for my own mental health, it was really important at that time. I didn't even know. And so very fortunate to have started. And I also remember being like decent at it, but then going to a festival and walking in that room and thinking, wow, I am underskilled and underdressed, and this is really awkward. And I was going to wallflower real hard for a while. And then, but you know, I kept going. So you know, here we are.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
But what about the friend?
Oh,
That's what always happens, right? The friend
Actually,
brings you in, and
but
then...
that friend's parents dance tango.
Yes.
Oh.
He got interested in other things, and like tango wasn't as like important to him, and you know, but that's okay. It happens, you know.
Yeah.
and
sort of lost touch, but that's a whole thing. But I'm like, cut
It
that.
happens.
Yeah.
I have to say, part of, I think, when you were mentioning about the initial struggles and like what makes the difference in wanting to stay versus leave. And I think for me, it was I had my friend, and we both had this shared experience, and we felt a sense of community back with our tango club, and I think that made all the difference.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
I think I definitely felt awkward moments, um, but I made a point when I didn't know anybody in the room, as you do. Like, I didn't start in a club, and I went to classes with every teacher, including the ones that now I would be like, please don't go there. Like, I don't, like, really don't go there. But I went to every single one, and I made a point to talk to all of the people in the room, including the women, which I think sometimes we only talk to people we're potentially going to dance with, right? And when I saw somebody, I was like, oh, I think I've seen that person 4 or 5 times. I marched my butt over there and I sat next to them and I was like, hey, I'm Melody. And I'm an introvert. But I was like, I don't want to go do this thing alone. I didn't have a social group. Like my sister lived with me. I had some family, but I think, as a single mom, I'd lost all my mom friends because that's what happens when you get a divorce. So for me, I really quickly realized it was community. And it's one of the reasons that I feel so strongly about Vienna Tango School is that community that was such a lifeline for me and in many different places where I was in life, we can open the world up for people that haven't experienced that, especially now when we're maybe a little polarized, maybe we're staring at our screens a lot. We really, like, our sources of community have been shrinking. So, like, I forced my way into this community, and it helped that I brought a camera with me. And people enjoyed that, right? So that was definitely a talking point, and I encourage people, if they're in a place and they have the organizer's permission, bring a camera or see how they can be of service to this new community, and don't show up just to take, and it helps you acclimate much quicker as well.
I imagine you probably also saw things from a different view.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Now that we're kind of on the other side of creating the community that we want people to enter into, what would you want to make sure stays the same from your experiences, and what would you want to make sure is improved from when we first started?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we are so lucky to have some really incredible people, including people that now that have moved on from our community because life has taken them somewhere else or to another geographical area. I think the one thing that I would like to leave behind is this idea that you come in your cohort and then you don't really meet anybody in your lower cohorts. I think that tango only exists if we nurture it from the ground up. And my perspective of our community is that COVID kind of shrank it a little bit. Of course, we couldn't bring new people in if we couldn't even go dance, right? So I think DC took it a little bit of a hit, and maybe it's starting to recover a little bit, but having some opportunities where it's a little extracurricular in nature is something I really want to bring to our community, whether it's musicality classes that don't involve dancing. It involves talking and sharing ideas, or like clothing swaps, or just getting together for donuts or for a drink before or after, like really encouraging that. And I will say that I think that's part of why I felt that Eastern Market was such a special place, because every time we could go and have a drink at Tuna Cliffs after, or we would go and meet up with people at Aqua Al Duo right across the street, that's one of those things that makes it really special. And it made tango not about showing up and getting the dances that we needed to get, but actually about meeting people and getting to know them as well, which I think is really vital. So that's the long and the short of it. But what about you?
I think this is a very common, natural progression when you're in a community with layers of, or people with different layers of experience, where you sort of have to put in your due to get to that next level. And I think there always is some sense of that, where you need to get good enough so then finally you can now dance with that next tier of dancers. And that is something that it just creates such a huge barrier. You want enough challenge, right? Because
to aspire.
You want to aspire to do something amazing, but we shouldn't completely block ourselves off either, you know? And to be open on both sides, not just for those who are more experienced to not just for beginners to dance with those who are more experienced, but for those who are more experienced to go back to the roots and dance with some beginners and sort of remember and be inspired again. Sometimes that really does happen, and it reminds you to like keep yourself open.
Yes.
Because otherwise, why? Like you like when you dance, you dance. You dance. You move your own body.
Yeah.
You dance in a couple, but you dance on la ronda. Many other couples. Like I know they say it takes two to tango, but it actually takes a whole floor of people to tango, right? It's the choices that you make as a leader, for instance, is depending on who's in front of you, who's behind you, and the music, of course.
And your partner.
And your partner. But like we lose that somehow when it's off the dance floor.
Yeah.
You know, and it becomes very much about us and our own success and not about
Yes, and how cool I am, and look how much I've grown, and I can just dance with the people I select. And I have been guilty of being very selective. I remember, and Dasha, I hope she doesn't mind if I call her out in a good way. I remember she told me years ago, she said, oh no, when I'm dancing, I am dancing and only focused on what I can bring to my partner.
Yes.
And at the time, I think I'd been dancing like 2 years. And I was like,
what is that?
Whatever, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm dancing to get lost in the music and for the embrace and the catharsis. Like, I didn't understand it. And now I do. And I will say that where, you know, you show up as a beginner and you're watching the most experienced dancers and the ones with the most beautiful feet and maybe the visiting teachers, now I get so much joy watching new dancers, watching them discover something or that they can do something or feeling a lead. You can tell and they're like, oh, I've never felt that before. I get so much joy from that. And of course, I still like watching like people with pretty feet.
Of course.
But, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and hearing them go in the class, go, oh, like that is so exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a natural segue into like Vienna Tango, why we're doing this, why we decided to form this partnership and kind of what goals are. So do you want to kick that off? Like, where are we, what's the vision here?
Yeah. You know, so I've been dancing for 15 years now. And I think every couple of years I reach another phase of excitement. And that's, really quickly, one thing about tango that it's so beautiful. There's so many, just like the music, there's so many layers and richness to the culture of tango and what it has to offer. And so in the beginning, it was the festivals, right, and the classes, and then also the marathons hit the scene. And then it was every other week running away from school.
Dance all weekend long.
Dance all
5 in the morning.
long, and the brunches, and like 10 people squashed in a little space.
Yeah.
Those were the best moments. And then after a while, then it became, okay, my technique. And I need to improve myself because now I've hit a plateau.
Yeah.
And then because you start to explore the technique and you start to think deeper, then you start to express and communicate. You know, you have the vocabulary. Now it's like, oh, I know enough. Now maybe I can start to teach and share back with the people, you know? But then when you start to teach, you have to think more about the music. You have to be intentional. It's like, what is this music thing that's happening, right? And then there was a moment where when I started learning about the music and the different orchestras and how to DJ. And so like every couple of years is like a new phase, and where I'm at right now is it's the beginner experience. It's the new joiner experience, the methodology of learning to dance, learning to dance tango, which is such a unique dance in the Latin space. It's not, I do salsa and all the other Latin dances. You can teach someone, and I love this question people ask, what's the basic step of tango?
You're like, no, there isn't one. You walk.
Cannot compute. You walk, and I say it's like letters of an alphabet, and you just put them together to form different words, and there's so many different combinations, so it's so challenging, but at the same time, I really believe that we can make it more accessible. And I've had a lot of conversations with people who have been doing this for many, many years over the past couple of years, because I also organize, I bring people from all around the world. And I love talking to them to figure out, you've been to all these different countries. How does tango grow around the world? So right now, I'm at a place where I really want to figure it out. I need to what's the unlock, you know? How do we lower the barrier of entry to bring more people into Tango? People will funnel out, and that's okay. But we need more people in the beginning to at least, so the funnel's a little, the attrition from the funnel is a little less. So that's how I came to be. And so I started to get really deep into the curriculum, the learning progress, thinking back from the experience of the beginner, learning just enough to be able to move and have fun and not getting bogged down by the details and the technique. And so, yeah, now I'm at a space where I think now is the beginning of my journey to figure that out. Many other people have their methodologies, and I love learning the different ways of teaching Tango and what works and what doesn't always work. So I'm really excited to see like what this hybrid version of what we create is gonna be. And part of that, it's the teaching, but then it's the beginner experience. And you know, this kind of, for me, this started with Tango Ocho. And realizing, you know, we will invite the beginners to the milonga and tell them, come, don't worry. And we'll sit them down, we'll teach them the mirada and the cabeceo, but it's a milonga. So if I get asked to dance, deuces, I'm gonna go dance. Maybe I'll check on you in a little bit. And I would sit, you know, at one of our milongas here, and I would sit with the beginners and be like, and I would hear them and they would just say, this is too intimidating, I'm gonna leave. It's nice to watch, but there's no way I can enter the dance floor. And it finally occurred to me, there's no space for beginners. We have practicas,
but it's not a milonga.
But it's not a milonga. It's not a space that beginners can actually milonguear and feel comfortable and gain the confidence that they need to go into the other spaces. So those two things sort of started to come together. And I think right around the time, it was really quite fortunate that you offered your space and I was able to come here. Because then you could see what I was offering. And then we started to have that conversation. I was like, wait a minute. What she's saying sounds very similar to what I want to do. We should figure out how to do this together.
Yes.
And you're such a powerful human being. You're such a role model. Seriously. So I was like, if I can partner up with this woman and learn from her, and I feel like we're gonna rule the world in Vienna, in
Northern Virginia, at least. Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, I was talking to someone who is from Milan recently, and he said, "Oh, every milonga is like 100 people, and sometimes we have multiple that have 100 people." And I'm like, I think we can do that here. I think that if we bring some, you know, we're really evangelists, and we just expose people. It's just exposure. As long as you can expose people to it, the right people who it speaks to will stay, right? And I think that, like, I'm excited to do like a really concerted effort to get in front of the people that Tango will change the life. Like, I think it's part of like my journey reflected that I was in, like, we joke, the Quick Learners Club, right? And it's not because I was a quick learner. It's because Tango was the catharsis. You know, I was running a business. I was taking care of children by myself. Every decision I had to make every day. And then I would get into an embrace and I had to just still my mind. And I had never felt that mindfulness, that presence that was required. And it was addiction, immediate addiction, right? So like, I know how powerful that is and what kind of peace it can bring to people. I just had a woman in the studio actually who was like, I don't want to make decisions. It was this morning. She was like, I don't want to make decisions. You tell me what to do. I make decisions all day. Yes. She's like a chief operating officer of a big organization. And I was like, you should try Tango. I was like, you need Tango.
Gonna get all of it.
Yes. But like through that, I went every single night, right? And I don't think everybody can go every single night. So making it more accessible, but bringing as many people as we can in, and then saying, oh, by the way, there's all of these teachers, there's all of these places. We don't want to keep you in classes indefinitely. Like, get on the dance floor. That's how you're going to learn.
And that's the key, Melody, right? It's not, okay, I know I was talking a lot about the curriculum and whatnot, but it's like, those are all tools.
It's both,
Those are tools to serve the ultimate purpose is to be in the milonga, whether it's socially sitting, whether it's on the dance floor, whether it's creating something.
Yes.
And there was something that you said, right, about turning your brain off. that I think it's until you experience it, it's so hard to describe.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people say, oh, you did ballet. This must, it must have really helped get you to dance faster, better. And I was like, no, because, like in ballet, you have a choreo. And not at any moment can you ever only think about the particular step. You have to know the sequence that's coming so you can prepare for it, so you can naturally transition from one to the other.
Yeah.
And so to be able, especially as a follower, all you want to know is what's next, what's next, what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And that ability to just literally one-to-one be completely present with someone who you've probably never met before.
Yeah.
And trust in your connection, trust in the music, and trust in your body. And there's so many things that I've taken from tango into my own personal life as well. And I think that's also really exciting to be able to bring other people into that space. And see them
absolutely. When people ask about it, what I say, because I'm like, what is the one thing they might have felt? Because a lot of people don't meditate, right? So I'm like, well, have you ever had a really great yoga class? Like at the end of the very end of that really great yoga class.
My favorite pose is like sleeping child. It was a child's pose. I'm like, yes, I've been waiting all day for this.
I'm like,
start snoring.
And then like you have the piece. I'm like, well, you get that in the first 3 minutes. I'm like, that's what you get, right? That's at least for me. I'm like, and that part is so powerful. Yeah. Maybe it's not the leader's experience. What about you? Sorry, John.
Yes and no. I actually think that there's a part of it that's, so now when I feel like I'm dancing the best and I'm having the most fun, it is when I can just focus on the music and I'm not thinking about what step I'm going to do. I'm just sort of taking it in and then interpreting, and that's it. And that's there's definitely like a mindfulness aspect to it. That's not, and that comes with time and after you develop a lot of that muscle memory and technique and all that stuff. But yeah, no, when you're having fun, that's at a different place.
Yeah. It's so counter to how we live in society.
It is. Yeah, to just be present and to listen, and to listen to somebody else. We were right, like physically, we were talking about this after the Rotary class that we taught, that like there really aren't very many times in life that you are just kind of perceiving your body. And I'm like, well, the closest is meditation, but then when do you ever meditate like with somebody, like feeling and trying to perceive what they're doing? But it is like a walking meditation, right? It's like there's definitely, and also frustration and like all of these other things because you're learning a new skill. But I think it's so powerful. And I'm really excited to expose more people to that and hook them.
So is that how you arrived to this point right now?
No. So we found this beautiful space. And this space is larger and then, of course, a much larger investment than my previous studio. And we had a couple of milongas in the other space, like smaller milongas, just because I wanted to fill it with people. And John found this place. There was a sign in the window, and we'd called the guy, but like didn't have a key, so we couldn't get in. And I was just like creepily looking through the window, and it was just this big open empty warehouse. And part of me, like my heart was hurting because Eastern Market as a DC establishment is kind of gone, right? Every once in a while somebody tries to revive it, but it's just not what it was. And it was my favorite. It was my absolute favorite. And I looked in the window and I had that feeling. I had that feeling, but I had it in part for the studio, but in part for tango. And I was like, I can fill this place with people. I can make Eastern Market here what was special about Eastern Market in our own form here. And so I thought that we could just have a social milonga. I didn't want to teach. I was like, I don't want to teach. Like I need to go to Buenos Aires and I need to train with teachers, and I'm a perfectionist. And so I'm like, I need to do all of these things before I feel like I can teach, which that's not the right approach. And as we got going with Abrazo, I think I realized that we need to grow the community around here that we can't expect only that our community always comes out, right? We're very lucky we have lots of events. So like really encouraging a community to root here, which was one of the first places that Tango existed in the DC area. It was here in Vienna. So I'm like, okay, it was here, it can be here. Like we have Colvin Run as one of the longest, you know. So I'm like, okay. I was coming to that realization, and you were like, oh, let's do Ocho. And I was like, yes, let's absolutely do Ocho. And then I was like, it needs to be more. It needs to be more. It needs to be weekly classes. Because Ocho, like one time a month isn't enough. That was the thing. And I was like, it needs to be weekly. It needs to be something regular and reliable that people can show up and really start to learn with the goal of getting them on the dance floor. And I think as we were having these conversations, it was just very apparent that we were kind of like, yeah, exactly. And once we started talking about it and we're like, yeah, we should do this. It was like, yeah, we should do this.
Like, all of a sudden,
let's
3
do
days
it.
later,
Yes. Yeah. So we were like, okay.
I just want to clarify something.
Yes.
Earlier you said you found this beautiful space.
Yeah.
For anybody who has yet to see the space, this is just a space.
Yeah.
Melody and John have created a beautiful space out of this shell of a building. So
it was an empty shell.
Like
it was. Well, we can add a clip of the space for sure because it was just a warehouse. But as a photographer, I'm really, really good at seeing what can exist. And I think part of what's so special about it is that when we were building it out, of course, there's utility, so I can work as a portrait artist. But it was built to have these events. Like intentionally, the 4 chandeliers are not for my studio. Like nobody cares about, one would be fine, maybe 2. But like I was like thinking about people dancing under them, and I was like, oh, even 2 isn't enough. That's gonna look weird. I was like, we need 4 chandeliers. And John was like, do we? Okay, I guess so. Even my guys that were installing it were like, 4? Okay. That's gonna impact the quote. Yeah, but like the HVAC, like everything was tailored to try to make an experience here for a Brazo that would be really beautiful. And now, like, as we've thought about it, we've expanded the floor, you know, we've really tried to make a place that is comfortable, that people want to come. It's like, it's not another office building.
No.
Not that there's anything wrong with communities and office buildings.
And I'm really glad that you pushed for something more consistent, more regular.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no way, I mean, to just be an escape once a month wasn't enough. We needed it in the beginning just to test the waters, but now it feels like every day we just have a million more ideas, and I'm really excited. What are you most excited about, like for what's to come? We have 2 milongas in this space now, one for beginner-friendly space, Tango Ocho, and then we have the more community-centric Abrazo.
Everybody.
For everybody. We're going to have classes. What else?
I am excited for visiting teachers. I'm really excited that Jake's coming to teach because I love Jake, and like I also want to learn from him because I feel like the Eastern Market community that Jake and Dasha sustained and grew like was so amazing for DC, and I think that we're kind of missing them. So I'm going to pick his brain the whole time. I'm excited about the potential of future visiting teachers that may be coming from other places that we can't talk about. I'm really excited for that, but I also like I get really excited when I'm shooting. If somebody walks in and I can see immediately what that end result is, it doesn't always happen. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I know you wanted this, but I can see this. And if they go along with it, then the end result is just magic. I can see where we're going to go with this. I can see a community. I can see that, like, I can see people forming connections with each other. I can see that people are going to meet their future spouses here, right? People are going to meet their best friends here. Like,
I met my current spouse dancing.
Yeah, exactly. And I met John dancing. You know, I met my best friend dancing. All of the little connections that are going to end up being here, which is like, doesn't seem like the tango piece of it, but it is a tango piece of it. I'm really, really, really excited. That community piece is what's most important to me. What about you? What are you excited about?
It's going to sound weird, but I am most excited for all of the non-tango things we're going to be doing. No, it's things like this, the time that we take to talk about Tango
Yeah.
and what it means for us and how people can connect with it. And probably down the line, I hope we get to touch on some very sensitive but challenging topics that it's the elephants in the room when it comes to retaining people in Tango and
Oh, yeah.
maintaining a safe space.
Mm.
I am excited for all of the social things that we've been incorporating and that we're planning to incorporate into our events, because you dance for 12 minutes, but the rest of the time you're sitting, you're talking.
Yes. And you're either sitting awkwardly or you're talking.
Or going to the snack table to grab
Yes,
something.
yeah.
And I'm excited for the different groups of people that we're thinking to bring in. I actually spent earlier today, I was just, if you check the Notion app, I've got like 10, at least like 10, 15 different groups that I found that I'm like tangentially could be interested in Tango.
Awesome.
I am so interested in, it's so crazy because I think we've all been doing this, which again, for me was another reason why I was like, I feel very confident and comfortable to partner. I think we're very like-minded in this. I know you've been talking to some OGs in the community. I've been talking to some OGs, some Tango schools around the country, some OG organizers around the country, and we've been picking a lot of different people's brains on how to make this work.
Yeah.
So it's not just us sitting in a silo trying to create something new. It's leveraging what already exists and paying homage almost to what other people have done that have worked really well, literally all around the country and the world. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that in the US, we could definitely grow. Like all across the country, Tango could grow. There's so much room to grow. And I think it'll just be so beneficial to us in general and to our communities. So I want to bring a little bit of Europe and a lot of Buenos Aires. I think that's really, really exciting. Yeah. What about you, John?
Tango has given a lot to my life, and I can't imagine what my life would be without it. And I think it's time to give back and sort of pay it forward and give that gift to more people. You know, I like listening to like that talk Robin Thomas had about how if you want Tango to grow, you have to get out there and share it.
To teach,
Yeah, you have to teach. And, you know, thinking about it, it's like, yeah, that's, you know, I'm also a bit of a perfectionist, so very much like high standards for myself in terms of, you know, do I really want to be giving information? Am I like the expert in this? Blah, blah, blah. But it's like, if I want people to do this thing, you know, gotta do it. So.
Yeah.
We'll become experts along the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I do love what Raman said. I mean, he was like, if you learned how to walk.
What was this? I didn't watch it.
He said that Tango is shrinking, and that if we want Tango to grow, then everybody should be a teacher. I think there's like this idea. Maybe we do it to ourselves when we start that like, oh, you've only been dancing 2 years, you shouldn't be a teacher. But like, oh, in 2 years you can learn how to walk. You could teach somebody else to walk. And there are so many different philosophies that like you're going to learn it 10 different ways, right? And you get to choose whatever is right for you. So I don't think there's a lot of validity to saying, oh, you're going to teach them to walk wrong. Like they're walking, right? And you'll pick up something that's useful. So I think like imposter syndrome can really hold us back. And he was essentially saying like, if you know something, teach it because you'll bring more people in, right? And they know nothing. So giving them more than what they already have is a benefit to everybody. And I think I agree with him.
And I think also too, we are leveraging our Tango network, right?
Yeah.
We all have access to phenomenal teachers in the Tango world.
Yeah.
So we're picking their brains, we're pulling in. We're not just throwing paint on the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yes.
But you're right. I guess there has to be that sense of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
To start something.
Yes.
I think. Can you imagine what we would inspire? I hope that we can inspire other people to start something.
Oh, I hope so. Yes. I think we will. I think we can. I think like waiting until you feel like you're good enough is, I mean, come on, Tango, you go to your first class and they're like, this is how you walk. And Tango, 10 years later, you're like, I know nothing. And you go to a class and they're like, this is how you walk. And you hear the exact same thing and you learn something entirely different from it. So you know enough, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's true with so many things, right? So, I mean, don't teach people to skydive, maybe.
Also just
certification.
don't go skydiving. Rather, if you go, don't tell your mother you're gonna go first before you go skydiving. No, she may or may not have a very, yeah.
You won't catch me skydiving, so it's okay.
You won't catch me skydiving again. Once was
We're faded. Yeah.
already enough.
Oh, my
More than enough. Yeah.
All right. What's
So what's next? What other topics do we have to look forward to?
Well,
What do we talk about on here?
I want to know actually what people want discussed. I do think talking about age in tango is one of those things. Talking about safe dance, safe communities, how we can all make safe communities. I also think talking about rejection, that's going to be a big one. The technique, of course, we can touch on some technique of tango, or the philosophies and the history and the music and the orchestras, like all of this. John, you want to throw some in here?
Well, I think on the more business side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Like as a tango school. I mean, we can talk about tango philosophy for Kingdom Come, but
we are going to talk about what it takes. We're going to talk and show people as we grow this. That's our goal. We're building something from the ground up. We really are starting fresh. It's a brand new baby business. Just got the first piece of mail today. Today, I have it on the desk. I'll show you guys. It says
Can we bring it? Can we show?
So we have that, and I think that actually can be really exciting for people that aren't even interested in tango. Like, what does it take to grow a business? What are we thinking about as we're growing this business? And I think as long as we're really thinking about our end goal, because we've done the projections, there's not a lot of money. There's really not a lot.
FYI, worlds. If you choose to get into tango, just beware.
Not a lot of money.
This is an activity of passion. That's right.
Yes,
And love.
that's right.
And sacrifice.
It is a labor of love. And I will say, like, thinking about the years and all of the organizers and the people that are doing it volunteer with no money attached to it.
Tapping into it now.
Yes.
All of the work that has come in and sustained the community.
Yes.
So now it's...
Yes, and I think it's a little bit of a thankless job often. So I think that we could all be full of gratitude for the people that have laid down this foundation, whether they're still here or not, and that continue to nurture it and grow it. Just a little thank you for all of our teachers and organizers is something we're learning on this end of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that maybe people deserve roses often, or some donuts, or like a nice, stay at a 5-star hotel for a weekend to just like decompress, because I know it's a bit of work. Yeah. So, what else? We'll talk about growing. We'll talk about our endeavors, what works, what doesn't seem to work.
Also, what are all the different paths you can take in tango?
Yes.
How do you build a life? How do you balance a life? Because when you enter the tango worlds, and you will inevitably at some point get hooked, you still have your regular life, right?
Yes.
Your regular friends. We won't speak about those people. Kidding, love you guys. You both are parents. You both are professional business owners outside of tango. You are heavily involved in the community. I am a consultant. I have my family.
Well, you did a
huskies.
PhD while dancing tango.
You know what? I think the tango helped me to survive the PhD.
I believe that. Yeah.
Like we all have. This isn't like tango feels like our world, but in reality, it's not. How do you find that balance?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have that moment when COVID started? I remember it was visceral that I was like, oh, is tango over? Is that it? And I was like, I grieved a little bit for a while. Like I really did. Not a little bit. I grieved a lot of it, I think, for a while. And then,
Well, you also had that ankle injury.
oh yeah, I messed up my ankle shortly before, like maybe like 3 or 4 months before. So I hadn't been able to dance anyway. I couldn't even put on a heel. And then it was like all of a sudden it was like any possibility in the future was gone. And I was like, oh, that's our community. Like, that's where did it go? And we have 4 kids, so we were not seeing anybody outside of our family. We couldn't even form a pod because that wouldn't be fair to have like a pod with our friends, but the kids couldn't see friends. So we were just like, it was just us. It was just us because it would have just been
Darn kids.
It would have been this whole. It wouldn't have been a pod. I don't know what's like 4 pods in one pod, whatever. So it wasn't a possibility, and I grieved it, and I really wondered if we would be able to recover as a community. And I think we see it did. It impacted it. It impacted the energy, and we lost people.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Where we are.
Yeah.
Right. We lost many years of new people entering the community.
Yeah. With the regular attrition as well.
Right. And now we have to more than make up for. We have such a huge gap.
Yeah.
And if people who have more experience aren't willing to
nurture
give back and nurture, we're just going to die out.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
For me, it was just, I think, okay, so I'm not going to lie, I know I come across as being very social, but I'm very much.
You are social.
I am very much an introvert. I mean, I had my own very horrific moments because of COVID, but I really enjoyed the excuse to just be home and not to be anywhere else for a while there. But for me, when it really sunk in were all of these teachers around the world who Tango was their profession, and that inspired me, and to see them like, what are they gonna do now? How do they survive? How do they live?
Yeah.
And I know some people came together and there were virtual classes, and it worked for the moment that it did, but that was really like a rude awakening moment to realize that like we really need to support our teachers because they're the ones that are also keeping our teachers, our organizers. That was the part for me that was hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
but the ingenuity of people coming up with
like I saw that there were like online milongas.
Yeah,
I did see that. I tried.
Once you're an addict in Tango,
no, that's
can stop you.
I did try. I know somebody was doing technique classes online, and I was like, I signed up for it, and then I just never. Everything else got in the way, But I'm glad that it existed through it. I'm sad for the people that have left the community, although I think. Like in our area in particular, we have this struggle that like it's a very transient place, right? So we're gonna like nurture people up and they will go, and we have to know that maybe they'll come back.
One last question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can do one.
What's like our biggest risk here? What are we most scared about? What are we most anxious about?
Well, there's always rejection, right? Any time you put yourself out there, it's like, what if everybody hates us? What if nobody wants to do it, right?
I don't think people realize, the people who come to Tango Ocho, the first person that walks into that door, it's like yes, okay, someone's here. Okay, and then like 2-3 more people show up. I'm like, oh my God, they're showing up.
Yes, 100%. Same with Abrazo. I'm always like, what if tonight nobody comes? Nobody's gonna show up. Please keep coming. So there's that. I think the other thing is like, what if we start teaching and then for some reason people hate us? I don't know. But I also know imposter syndrome likes to poke its head up there. I don't feel it anymore as a photographer, and I used to feel it all the time.
Yeah.
I used to feel like physically sick, like after a sale, right? So I know it'll go away. It'll go away. The more we do it, we just ignore it.
Yeah.
It will go away. So, but I think that excitement drowns it out more than anything. So as long as somebody walks through the door, it'll be good. It'll be all good. I think the other fear is like this balance. It's like tango when it's just the thing that you enjoy is a special thing, right? And then if you're married to somebody who also dances who you happen to love, because not all people who dance or are married and dance love dancing with each other, but I love dancing with John. And bringing work into the relationship.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that could be like, and we've worked together on other endeavors before, so I know we can work together. But I worry tango is one of the things we love to do together. So that there's always that worry is like, am I going to kill the love of tango? Because you see teachers that sit and don't dance socially anymore, right? They don't dance for fun or joy because it's work. So I want to make sure to at least protect that a little bit. And we should talk about that.
I also see those who grow their families in tango and they still are so excited about tango.
Yeah, that's true.
That's inspiring stuff.
Yeah. So we just have to protect the joy and the love of it. And I think that can be its own episode. I think like talking about even the boundaries and what it's like and the utility of tango and when it means different things to you, I think that might be a whole episode in the future. Yeah.
I think for me, it's less so of a risk, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that, this is not an easy task. To do something consistently, to build a consistent offering. Yeah. I recognize the people in our community that are able to do that. And I know it took them many years to find their sweet spot. So fully aware that we will hit bumps along the road. And I hope our tango community will be there to also support us. And
know that there will be growing pains sometimes. Yes. Yeah. I hope so too. I think it's consumed. I feel like it's consumed the last, when did we officially, the last week. We're officially about a week old, I think.
Every moment.
Every moment.
Every moment.
And I know it's not sustainable. It can't consume everything.
No, we'll slowly become stable.
We'll find balance. But I'm also very excited about this podcast. I'm very excited about talking, maybe eventually bringing guests on from our local community and people that are visiting as well, and maybe someday teachers. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So guests, give us a comment. Maybe let us know what you want to hear, what you'd like us to talk about. And we will get John a camera so that he's not a disembodied voice.
John, our friendly neighborhood ghost.
Yes, he'll be surrounded by cameras so everybody can see what this looks like from our end. And you know what? While we're live, let's take a quick picture of John and we'll just stick it in there so people can see what this looks like.
You have to show us that up.
Yes, I did. I got it. That was amazing. Nice. Awesome. Well, lots more to come. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers.
Next one, can I get like hot chocolate or something?